So I've gotten a lot of questions about how do you feel about Hellrack? How do you feel about Demon Machine? We got a couple donated just to be able to try it out and see how they work. Obviously the Hellrack is naked. I'm just going to give it a quick shot in cows. I think I already have a fairly good idea of how it's going to do, but we're just going to go ahead and test it out. We were also given a Demon Machine. It's up to a Demon Crossbow. It has an ED slam on it. It has 3 sockets and also has ED jewels in it with max damage. So we're going to go ahead and see how this looks as well. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to run half a cow with one of them and then half a cow with the other one. I'm still running my basic setup for Buriza. I'm not going to swap out of it. I know I'm going to be lacking in Pierce, obviously. But we're sitting on, 49% Pierce with only 1 point in it. And we already have 66% Pierce on Demon Machine. So there we're covered. On Hellrack, we're going to have about 50% Pierce. There's not a lot I can do about it. I'm not going to fully respec to try them out. Right? But I figured let's go in. We'll do half the map on Demon Machine. And then we'll try out Hellrack as well. And just see what the time compares to. So we're going in at, 4 minutes into this game. And I'm going to do about half the map. So here we're starting on Demon Machine. Demon Machine is nice because with only 10 IAS, you're going to hit your max breakpoint of 11 frames. Obviously, we have a bit more IAS than that, but the pieces of gear that we have IAS on are also contributing a lot of damage. So I'm not too upset about the concept. Damage on Demon Machine on multishot is 2,500 to 5,900. So I'd say about half of the, a little bit less than half the top end of our Buriza. I'm going to do my best to run half the map. You definitely have a bit more of that run and gun feel on this. Even 1 frame is, it's definitely noticeable, considering we run Buriza on 12 frames. We do get our Demon Imps, which is really just adorable. I'm going to do my best to cut it in half so we can get like a side-by-side comparison. I can definitely say that I can feel like we're just having to put more shots in. Also keep in mind like our crits are doing a lot less damage, right? Though we do have a lot of Demon Imps, which is becoming funnier and funnier the more of them I see. And now we're swapping over to Hellrack. Hellrack's damage is 1,900 to 6,500 on multishot. But do keep in mind that it's going to be at least 1 frame slower, and also about 1,000 of our damage is actually coming from physical damage, or coming from elemental damage. So we are going to be able to pierce better through like PDR, but our crits are doing less damage, and we're not gaining as much from enhanced damage as we would. Now, obviously, you would have, big ED jewels in this, probably. I don't think that you would ever go with anything like a facet if you're using this for multi-shot. You might just go IAS or 40-15s, depending on what breakpoint you're trying to hit, if you're trying to go for the 12 frame or the 11 frame. Alright, so that was definitely like less than half of the map, so let's average it out. Let's say Demon Bow did like half the map in, I don't know, like 2-ish minutes. Hellrack would have done half the map in closer to 3 minutes. Oh, we got a little bit extra in here. Now, I'm not really attempting to compare these up against my current Buriza, because my current Buriza, is an ED IAS hybrid slam with 39 ED jewels in it, and it's upped. But I think between the two, I think how I feel about Hellrack is pretty easy to wrap your head around. 1,000 damage worth of elemental damage just doesn't really do a lot on a multi-shot build. I think it would be fine in vanilla content, but once you get into maps where everything just has really high res and really high health pools and are just bigger threats, this is definitely like a fine starter Crossbow, you could definitely slap, 4 ohms in this, be sitting on 415 ED. But I don't think the 1000, and I'm just rounding up here, right? I'm being generous. 1000 elemental damage split between 3 elements is worth the loss of the max damage from Buriza. Demon Machine, I think Demon Machine is actually like a perfect example of the major issue with crossbows, and it is that they have a max IS breakpoint, right? They have an 11 frame max breakpoint. Now, min damage is comparable with Buriza. Obviously, max damage, it's going to be hard to do that, considering we have 222 max damage that then hits ED, right? But this definitely felt good. Obviously, the Demon Imps are just, I don't know, they walk around, they don't really do anything. This is definitely a nice piece. I think you could sit on a Demon Machine for a lot longer than you could sit on a Hellrack before you eventually upgrade to a Buriza if you're trying to go crossbow, right? Now, I haven't tried either of these on the elemental builds. Hellrack purports to support Immolation and Exploding Arrow. I think I'd rather use a Kuko Shikaku. I'd rather hit a higher IS breakpoint and be firing off more spells than trying to rely on actually hitting stuff with this. Back on the Demon Machine. Yeah, just very similar. I think I'd rather be using a bow for elemental builds than using a crossbow. Because when you're an elemental build, it's a lot more like you're casting spells by shooting rather than doing big damage, which is where the crossbow really shines. And then both as comparison points, I think it's just really hard to compare against Buriza. Even with the Buriza, you're getting cold damage and freeze target. So you're already getting the CC that you would be getting from the cold damage for Hellrack. And then the additional damage is just kind of irrelevant. I guess we could fire off some exploding arrows. Yeah, that feels... I guess in high level play you could technically be firing this off just for a bit of burn, like a vague amount of DPS, but honestly I feel like I would just rather have fired off another multi-shot. They're both really cool weapons. I think they're very flavorful, and they're definitely fine for like mid game and getting into the late game. I think Hellrack really helps out at the beginning of endgame, where you cannot rely on already having, Gavel Pain for breaking physical immunes. You're going to have to be able to deal damage in other ways. And then Demon Machine. Demon Machine does mean that like you don't need to use Nosferatus, you don't really need to use Cat's Eye. Getting 15 IAS somewhere just to be able to hit the 11 frame breakpoint is really easy. And then after that, it does mean like, since you don't have 100% Pierce, 1 point into Pierce and using a Razor Tail, and you're going to hit max Pierce anyways, then you get the flat damage from Razor Tail. You could even swap over to, I don't know, like a High Lords, maybe? I'm wondering where you would get the attack speed. But both of them work fine, I would say. Or I'm sorry, this one would bring you closer to Buriza than Hellrack does. So you can kind of transition from Hellrack up to Demon Machine, and then move over to Buriza. Definitely cool. I love the Demon Machine. I think the Demon Machine is super cool, and I also love Hellrack. They're not really competitive.